Thich Nhat Hanh said, "You have arrived. You are home." What does this mean? Where is home? Home is here, fully inhabiting the body, your body. With mindfulness practice, we expand to include our whole body, even though at times we direct our attention to particular areas of the body. For instance, we can direct our attention to our hand, zooming in our attention to the front of our hand, to the back of our hand, to our different fingernails, to our different fingers, seeing if we can experience the different sensations: tingling, itching, throbbing. Not necessarily the concept of our hands, but the direct experience of what's happening right now. And then we can zoom our attention out, noticing the space in the room, our bodies, our breath. This capacity to direct attention with mindfulness, the knowing of what's happening, allows us to really deeply inhabit and become familiar with our bodies. And it starts a healing process, an unwinding of whatever is held unconscious. Even things that we may even know somewhat about can begin to change and shift and reveal different aspects of who we are. The body in some ways is like a reflection pool. Thoughts and feelings cause ripples. We can even see in our posture the different ways that we expand and contract. Sometimes, I can catch myself when my posture is like this. And I'm like, oh wait, there's a lot of fear or there's sadness. Something's going on. The body is mirroring what's happening. And then there are times where it feels like I'm very upright. Standing, sitting, moving through space, no problem. This is accompanied with more spacious mind states. So there's no problem with the expansion or the contraction. We're just learning, what is happening here? And we start with the breath as an anchor, breathing in and out, and then learning how the breath even is a reflection of what's happening in our body. Short breaths, long breaths. And perhaps a good goal at first is to bring at least 20% of your intention in your body at all times throughout all of life. And then as we get more and more familiar with it, we can start to really inhabit it and deepen it into full presence, where our whole body becomes alive with the nowness of here, home. And we have to be really patient with ourselves because we're not typically wired habitually to inhabit our bodies. There's so much sensory input that's happening that sometimes we may even go on overwhelm or overload. So we really have to learn how to be breathing, sitting, here's my hands, here's my feet, that I can handle whatever is happening, that it can move through this body in a way that can move and change and not get stuck and contract. Jon Kabat-Zinn said mindfulness can help you take more of an active role in your health and healing. You are not a machine being taken to the shop for repair or tune-up. It's best if you can begin participating in your own health care as early as possible. Starting in childhood by learning mindfulness practices in school would put people on the road to a much more healthy relationship to their body and their emotions. That's much healthier than the default mode where you just hope for the best and treat the body more or less as an automobile that you can drive into the hospital for repairs when it breaks down. So we're really learning that, our body is, not such this object over here, that it is where a life begins and ends. It's precious, and that we need to start, taking care of it, letting it unwind and expand. It is the foundation here of really understanding, through attention and mindfulness, really understanding what habits are happening. Those little contractions, those little tensions, those big contractions, the places where it expands and there's, gaps of sensation that expand into bliss. It's all happening right here in our bodies. And we really don't know how to pay attention here, to stay here. And by bringing our attention over and over and over again to our bodies, to our breath, we really become familiar with the stability of heart and mind that can become a natural place of inhabiting. And there's power and strength here in allowing this. One example that comes to mind is, how difficult it is to stay in the body is when, my son, who is 2, is learning how to work in his body and learning what his body is capable of and what it's not capable of, and learning how to eat. And, we as parents, most of us have, this high alert when toddlers are starting to begin to eat, because, there's, they don't really know how much that sometimes they can eat, and they choke easily. They're more prone to choking. And so, when he's eating, I have this tendency to be on high alert. So it's like, okay, what happens? I can easily feel the contractions in my body. But then if it gets to a certain point, like one time he really was, coughing and coughing, it's like, where does my mind go? Can I really stay present here? Be with the fear, the tension, the tingling, the contraction, instead of spinning off into these stories of like, oh my God, he's going to die. Like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh. And then every time he eats, going into these stories because there was a precedent before of him almost choking. So, it's really here in our bodies that we stay present with everything that is happening, so that we don't go too much in the past, that we don't go too much in the future, that we can stay here even if it's difficult. So then when it's really expansive, during love making or talking to a good friend or, walking through nature, we can really be here too. We can be here in the expansions and the contractions. It is through our bodies that we realize this interconnection that we all have, and the sense of spaciousness and freedom and loving awareness. Mary Oliver has a poem. She says, the spirit likes to dress up like this: 10 fingers, 10 toes, shoulders, and all the rest at night, in the black branches in the morning, in the blue branches of the world. It could float, of course, but would rather plumb rough matter, airy and shapeless thing. It needs the metaphor of the body, lime and appetite, the oceanic fluids. It needs the body's world, instinct and imagination, and the dark hug of time, sweetness and tangibility, to be understood, to be more than pure light that burns, where no one is. So it enters us in the morning, shines from brute comfort like a stitch of lightning, and at night lights up the deep and wondrous drownings of the body like a star. So it's here in the body that we enliven our being, that we connect with others, that we tune into this consciousness, this awareness of being alive.